Welcome to our skills training project for advanced motor control. The skill of dart throwing is a learned skill which requires precision and accuracy. The goal of this training program is to see progression in motor learning over the course of 5 weeks, in order for the learner to change their capability of executing a dart throw. We took a constraints-based approach focusing on the interaction of the learner, task, and the environment. The skill of dart throwing is classified as a closed discrete skill due to stable and predictable movement. It is a fine motor skill due to coordination of small muscles in the upper extremity in synchronization. Skill according to Gentile taxonomy is 1B due to dart throwing having stationary, regulatory conditions, including the size, shape, and weight of the dart, with no intertrial variability. Measuring performance was achieved using both qualitative and quantitative performance measurements. Qualitative performance measure was used to assess the key aspects of the whole skill and rated on a 1 to 5 score system for each phase of the movement. Absolute error was measured in points and millimeters on the dartboard. After completing the 5-week training program, a retention test should show decrease in absolute error because the skill has increased. The stages of learning were broken down using the Fitz and Posner's 3 stages of motor learning model. The cognitive stage of the skill will be characterized by poorly timed, uncoordinated movements and accompanied by errors such as missing the dartboard. In the cognitive stage, a high amount of verbal instruction is needed. In the associative stage of learning, performance becomes more consistent and is represented by more darts landing where they are aimed, coordinated movements, and memorized patterns in the throw. It is expected that the subject will be at this stage by the end of the training program. The autonomous stage is where the skill becomes automatic. In dart throwing, this would be characterized by hitting a triple 20 consistently. The greatest amount of positive transfer in dart throwing would be change from practice to competition. Therefore, it made sense to implement similar elements of competition into the training, such as external noise. Also providing adequate experience in the cognitive stage of learning to ensure that the learner can identify similarities between known skills, such as throwing a ball, and between the task of practice and competition. Demonstration is used as a way of learning a skill through observation. Modelling is very effective in the early stages of learning by combining verbal cue with visual demonstration. We have implemented modelling into the training program and focused on critical components of the skill, such as pointing at a target and the follow-through phase. Augmented feedback is a form of external feedback which is provided for the learner. Augmented feedback through the training program was implemented via audio and visual learning or modelling, as well as error-based feedback provided for the learner from our data collection. These methods of feedback can be used as corrective-based feedback for the learner to seek ways to improve their performance through non-executed previous attempts at training. Although the benefits of feedback are great, giving feedback after every trial or attempt will lead to dependence on feedback to perform the skill. To reduce the frequency of feedback, we implemented summary-based feedback after grouped practice sessions and an average range of scores based on our grouped attempts from our quantitative results. Fading out the amount of feedback given as the training program progresses will lead to a greater learning response in the performer overall. Better learning results have been found in motor learning when skills are practiced in larger numbers of shorter sessions. Massed sessions of practice are affected by fatigue and loss of technique. Massed practice can also lead to loss of cognitive effort on each trial. For the skill of dart throwing, it was best to implement shorter periods of training at a more frequent rate, for example 4 to 5 days per week in 30-minute blocks. Dart throwing has few component parts and demands relatively little attention. It is a highly organised skill because the phases of the throw act as a chain of events where each component part is interdependent on the previous phase. Therefore, practice of the whole skill is beneficial to accuracy in motor learning for dart throwing. Studies have shown that mental training is an effective training tool if the learner is limited to the amount of physical practice that they can do for a particular skill. The goal of mental practice is to use imagery to train cognitive function. Various drills have been implemented into our training program to assist this progress. Goal setting for a skill is also a beneficial way to improve retention of the action and the effectiveness of training. Self-efficacy theory is one's ability to succeed in a specific task. Higher self-efficacy leads to higher participation and motivation to work harder at executing a skill. We implemented this into our training program by having the learner practice on their own, using similar skilled models to demonstrate the task, and by providing various types of feedback for the learner. Studies on the bottleneck theory have shown that with precision movements such as dart throwing, one can only focus on one task at a time due to limited capacity in attention. It was beneficial to get the learner to focus on the movement outcomes rather than the movements themselves, and directing the learner to a movement goal through discovery learning in training and feedback. Long-term memory is required through repetition. Through goal setting, we provide the learner with intention to remember the movement, which assists in overall retention or memory of the action. Our training program consists of 5 main drills, which progress in cognitive attention over the 5-week period. Drill 1 aims to hit numbers on the dartboard which are close to each other to progress. We implemented this in week 1 as a game called 301. The aim of week 1 was to take time with the skills and line up a shot consistently, not to necessarily score high points in the game. Week 2 implemented a drill known as Around the World, where the learner aims to hit numbers progressively in a clockwise direction, still focusing on key skills and phases of the movement. Feedback is also decreased in this week. Week 3 of the program starts to focus on the dart throw becoming more consistent and coordinated. Drill 3 in this week aims to score points based on the Around the World system and aim for smaller targets on the dartboard. This will improve attention to detail and cognitive response. Drill 4 in week 4 begins with calling out a target number and hitting 4 numbers in a row before progressing to the next period of training. One day of the training program will be aiming for triple 20 on the dartboard, which is the highest score in the game. Finally, in week 5 of the program, it is consistently hit higher scores in the game, which requires autonomous retention of the movement and focuses on precision. This week, we asked the learner to aim for the inner rings of the dartboard to acquire more points. One day also focuses on hitting triple 20. Thank you for watching.